A week before the wedding, Ryan brushed off a final call from a client and returned home early, hoping to rehearse his wedding vows. He opened the front door and was surprised to see his beautiful bride, dressed to the nines, a black cocktail dress, a string of pearls, sheer black stockings, and high heels. "Damn, she looks good," he thought. "You're early." Her shrill voice betrayed the horror she felt inside as her plan to avoid confrontation began to crumble. At first, Ryan thought he had forgotten about the dinner date, so he flashed his best smile, kissed his bride, and announced, "Give me 10 minutes, and I'll be clean-shaven and ready to go." "Where to go?" Caroline trembled as the words left her lips. He froze in place. "With you, of course, because you look so hot." After a significant pause, the bride replied, "Dear, I'm very sorry, but you misunderstood me. Oh God, I was so afraid of this conversation that I was going to leave you a note explaining everything." Ryan became even more confused when he noticed that Caroline had a duffel bag next to the front door. She saw where he was looking. "I won't be home this weekend." "I'm confused. What do you mean you won't be home?" "I was so excited about wedding planning. I have to leave." "And where are you going?" "Hotel in the city center." "All alone?" It took her more than a minute to answer. "I'll be with a friend." Ryan took a deep breath. "Since you didn't mention your friend's name, is it safe to assume that you will be with a man?" Caroline looked guilty as sin. "It's not like that at all. He's just a friend." Ryan's voice became louder. He began pumping his fists in the air as if he could force words into submission. "You're going to share a room with a man a week before our wedding, and you want me to believe that he's just a friend. I need this weekend. Who is this son of a bitch who will share your bed?" His voice filled the room. "It's not like that at all. He is my friend that I talk to." "What are you talking about?" "About us. Our relationship." "Is he an experienced psychiatrist or psychologist?" Caroline stared at the floor and said nothing. "Is he a licensed therapist or counselor?" And again, no answer. "Is he at least a member of the clergy who gives advice to engaged couples?" "No, but he is a good listener," she muttered. "Good listener," Ryan growled. "You're going to spend the weekend before our wedding with some asshole because he's a good listener." Caroline lowered her head even lower. Her shoulders slumped and she seemed to be melting. "Look at me when I talk to you." Ryan waited until she raised her head. She sobbed and mascara ran down her cheeks. 2 hours of preparation for hell took less than 2 minutes. "I'll ask you for the last time. Who is this bastard? Promise you won't hurt him." "I promise I will find out who he is and kill him if you do this." "That's what I promise." Caroline collapsed to the floor and curled up like a whining puppy who had just chewed on her owner's favorite slippers. "Get up and answer me." There was still no answer. Ryan tore the mirror off the hallway wall and threw it across the room. It exploded, hitting the wall of the dining room. Shards of glass fell onto the wooden floor. Caroline jumped to her feet. "That's why I was going to turn off my phone and leave you a note explaining why I should do this." The look on Ryan's face scared Caroline. "So, if I returned home at normal time, you would already be gone?" No answer other than a nod. Ryan struggled to maintain his composure. "And you were going to sneak out to spend the weekend with another man and leave me a note?" Ryan opened his briefcase and took out a notepad and pen. He threw them on the dining table and pulled up a chair. "It better be a damn good note. Start writing." Caroline sat down and began to write. After a few minutes, she stopped and put down her pen. He waited for her to hand him the notebook. When she didn't, he snatched it from her. She wrote exactly 1 sentence. "Next week I will begin a new chapter of my life, and I must do it before it is too late." Ryan looked shocked. His voice trembled with emotion when he asked, "Tell me the truth. Were you going to admit that you were leaving with another man? If I had more time, I would explain my feelings." "You did not answer my question. I would try to formulate it this way. You will agree that what I did was for us, to make our marriage stronger." This is madness. This doesn't make any sense. How could your affair make our marriage stronger? He didn't give her a chance to answer. People get divorced when one of them has an affair. Marriages end because of affairs. So are engagements. This took her by surprise. She never thought Ryan would threaten to call off their wedding over this. Caroline tried to think of a way to justify her actions. Finding nothing, she gave up and blurted out, "I couldn't tell you because I knew you'd react badly." Badly. The word flipped a switch, and Ryan exploded. "What are you talking about?" "This isn't bad. This is your last chance. I won't marry you next week, or at all if you don't tell me his name right now. The wedding is canceled. What do you think? This is bad?" Caroline grabbed his wrists. "Ryan, please don't say that. I love you more than anything in the world, but this is what I have to do." He broke free. "Tell me his name." Silence. "You have one last chance. Tell me his name or get the hell out of my house and never come back." "Ryan, please don't say that. I love you." "You really have one way to show it." He opened the front door. "This is the last time I say this. Tell me his name or get the hell out of my house." Finally, she couldn't stand it anymore. "Scott Jenkins from work. Your boss? This son of a bitch is older than your father," Ryan shouted. Caroline howled like a banshee, trying to get out of hell. "Have you already had sex with him?" There was no answer. "Have you already had sex with him?" Caroline silently looked at her feet. "Have you already had sex with him?" Caroline covered her face with her hands. "Although your silence speaks louder than any words, I am still waiting for an answer. Have you already had sex with him?" She nodded affirmatively. That simple gesture hit Ryan harder than any baseball bat. His heart started beating wildly, and he thought he was having a heart attack. He felt dizzy and grabbed the table to keep from falling. Caroline stood there, afraid to say anything. Ryan took several deep breaths before he could speak. "As far as I remember from the Christmas party, he is married. What does his wife think about him having sex with a beautiful blonde half her age?" "She doesn't mind. She is going through menopause and has not been able to have sex for almost a year." "Did she tell you that herself?" "No, Mr. Jenkins, Scott. He said she was too embarrassed to talk about it." "Why don't we call her and ask?" "No, Scott said it would humiliate her even more." "Give me your phone. I'm willing to take the risk." "I don't have his home number, just his cell phone." "That means the bastard is sneaking around behind his wife's back." No. He respects her feelings and doesn't want her to feel like a less worthy woman." "I can't believe how stupid you are to defend him. I can't stand it. I'm giving you a choice. Leave or be thrown out by your slutty ass." "How dare you call me a whore? What would you call an engaged woman who is having an affair with a married man?" No answer. She turned away from him and began muttering something under her breath. "Before you go, I have one more question. Why were you planning to spend the weekend with another man?" Finally, she spoke. "It's all your fault, you know." "It's my fault. What the hell are you talking about? When things got serious between us, you admitted that you had sex with 3 girls before me. You were the only man I had sex with. I told you it didn't matter, but after talking to Scott, it started to eat at me, and I knew I'd end up cheating on you to make things right. Scott said that if our marriage is to succeed, we should enter into it as equals. He said I should do it now, because I told him that you always said you would never stay married to a woman who cheated on you. We're not married, so I'd even the score. Then I will never cheat on you after we get married." "What? You are crazy? This was before I met you." "I've been 100% faithful to you since our first date," Ryan continued. "So you bet our entire future on the crap spewed by a lustful old man who wanted to fuck a girl half his age." "No, it's not like that at all. I mean, yeah, we talked about it. He made me realize how unfair it was to me, but he never tried to manipulate me." "So it never occurred to you that he has a vested interest in you evening the score?" "No, it wasn't like that at all. He only wanted to help us." "Do not make me laugh. What exactly did a good listener say that could help us?" "He said almost nothing. But he helped me think things through. He made me understand that I had the right to have sex with 3 different men so that we could enter into our marriage as equals." Right! What crap, Ryan yelled. Ryan, I enjoyed sex with another man, but I love you so much that I'm ready to settle for one. Caroline grinned stupidly, as if she had played a trump card. Be content with one? Ryan looked at her intently. If it weren't so pathetic, I would laugh. I'm so confused. When Scott explained it, it made so much sense. It wasn't supposed to be like this. You're right. You and I were supposed to be together forever, loyal to each other. Ryan looked like he was about to lose his temper. How do you think I will react when I find out that you are having sex with your boss? No! 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 You're turning everything around! Then tell me, what do you think will happen when you get home after the weekend? Did you really think that I would be a good little cuckold and thank the old man for fucking my fiancée? No. I hoped you would never find out. I love you. I never meant to hurt you. It would be my little secret, hidden forever. You thought you were going away for the weekend, just turning off your phone and disappearing without telling me where you were going, and I won't understand that you cheated on me. He looked at her like she was the village idiot, and yet she continued to speak. Even if you find out, I know that you love me enough to understand the justice of this, and we will get married and live happily ever after. Justice. This word reeked of rage. What do you know about me that makes you believe that I would still marry you after you had an affair? Scotty said. Shit, Ryan shouted to her. He's an asshole who found a naive woman he could control. No, he is a very caring person who wanted to help our marriage succeed. How many times have you had sex with him or any other man? I swear there were no other men. Then how many times did you have sex with him? Not so many. 7 or 8. You had sex with another man 7 or 8 times while we were engaged, and you think it's not that much. I did it for us, Caroline sobbed, so that our marriage succeeds. Remember that conversation when I admitted that I was not a virgin. I never told you that I had sex with 3 girls before you. I just said I had sex 3 times. Every time I dated Sally McDonough, the girl I was fine with before I met you. We were planning to run away together after graduation. This quickly stopped when her mother caught us naked. You know how this story ends. The next day, they left town and I never heard from her again. We met next month. Since that day, I have never kissed another woman, let alone had sex. Caroline felt nauseous. So you're ahead of me by 7 or 8 to 3. I'll probably have to fuck 4 or 5 more women to make us equal. No, You think this asshole will say that I have the right to fuck 4 or 5 different women to make us equal? What about your best friend, Laura? You always said you didn't trust her around me. Maybe your sister? She's not dating anyone. No, Ryan, please no. Give me one good reason why not. I'll end this affair and won't go with him for the weekend. You have to understand I made a mistake, but I did it for our sake. No, you did this for yourself and only you. Please, Ryan, give me another chance. She begged. You are late. I can never trust you again. Please give me another chance. I swear I will never... Ryan raised his hand. She fell silent. What you did was pure evil. There are no us anymore. You destroyed it. And there will be no wedding. Never. No, no, no. Do not say that. I love you. I swear I will never cheat on you again. What hurts even more than your sexual betrayal is that you didn't come to me when you had doubts. I, the person you supposedly love. I don't know what I would say or do, but I can swear that I would never advise you to have an affair with a married man. Only a marriage-breaking slut would do such a thing. Silence. Caroline could almost feel the bony fingers of death tearing her soul, her every dream, from her chest. She could hardly breathe, and felt the taste of bile in her mouth. What do you think your mother will call you when I tell her that we won't get married because you took a man's instrument into you? Real old male instrument. Caroline responded by screaming, No! I'll make sure everyone knows what you did. All our families and friends will know that we will not get married because you had an affair with a married man. Ryan grabbed her left hand and nearly ripped her finger off as he took the engagement ring from his ex-fiancée. No, it is mine. You gave it to me. Her hands waved at him, trying to return the symbol of their commitment. You betrayed us. You betrayed everything behind this ring." He squeezed it tightly in his fist. "Everything is over. I can't marry you. Please leave before I hurt you." The finality of those words hurt Caroline. She tried to speak, but her mouth could not form a word. Instead, she made a sound like a dying man fighting for his last breath. Her eyes were huge and her body was shaking. Still, not a word was heard. Silence reigned in the room. Tears streamed down Ryan's cheeks. "I haven't felt this way since my father died." Caroline searched her memory, trying to find the right words to save her marriage, but nothing came of it. Only then did she finally realize that she had been deceived. A sharp knock on the door broke the silence. Caroline recovered from her shock and pulled herself together enough to say, "Oh my God, it's Scott. I'll tell him to leave. Please don't create any problems." Ryan grabbed the baseball bat he was holding next to the door. "I'm not going to cause trouble. I'll kill him right here in the lobby while you watch." Caroline jumped up and tried to stop him. "He's not worth going to jail over." "I really don't care." He walked around her. "I have nothing to live for. But if I kill him, then I will get even for the pain he caused me." She tried to call him on his cell phone to warn him. The call went straight to voicemail. Ryan, bat in one hand, opened the door. He was ready to throw the old man off his feet. Instead, he was met by 2 police officers. The bat fell from his hands. It hit the ceramic tiles of the floor with a loud thud. The officers ignored him. "I'm sorry, ma'am. Are you Caroline Bradley?" "What's the problem, officer?" The police went inside and closed the door. "Do you know Mrs. Loretta Jenkins?" "I work for her husband, Scott." The officers looked at each other as if they were in on a private joke. "Everything is fine? Did something happen to Loretta?" "No, ma'am. But about an hour ago, Mrs. Jenkins killed her husband in the living room of their home. Caroline lost consciousness and fell to the floor." Ryan walked into the kitchen and returned with a large pot full of water. He poured it on her face. Her once beautifully styled hair began to look like a drowned rat. Several minutes passed before she was able to speak. "Oh my God, Scotty is dead," she sobbed. "Yes, ma'am. She shot him 6 times in the chest with a .38 caliber revolver, then reloaded it and shot him 6 more times point blank in the face. Detectives said it was the coldest thing they had ever seen. She almost took his head off. The only sound was Ryan's laughter. The police looked at him like he was crazy. She probably didn't allow her husband to leave with you this weekend after all. We need you to come to the station, ma'am. Mrs. Jenkins told her neighbor that she would kill you for ruining her marriage. We have half a dozen squads patrolling the area, but they think you'll be safer downtown." She had a pale, numb face. "Don't come back, you liar." His voice died away as his ex-fiancée let out a terrible scream. The police carried Caroline halfway out to their car. Ryan watched the blue lights disappear into the distance, trying to figure out how his life had turned it into crap. 3 strong sips of whiskey loosened his tongue. The 4th awakened his writing abilities. He began composing an email to everyone whose email address he had. Family, friends, colleagues, church choir. To each, Ryan titled it, "Why I Don't Marry Caroline Bradley, the Liar and Slut. If you watch the news tonight, the big story is about a middle-aged woman who killed her husband because he had a 25-year-old slut. I'm ashamed to admit, but this slut is my ex-fiancée. Yes, little Miss Prim and proper Caroline, who always looked down on her girlfriends for sleeping around, is responsible for a 60-year-old man being shot and killed. Yes, she had sex with a guy older than her father. Now you know why I won't get married. Thank God this happened before I ruined my life by marrying a cheating slut. P.S. The police are hiding Caroline because her lover's widow is hunting her down to kill her. I hope she succeeds." Within a couple of minutes of hitting the send button, he had half a dozen replies. Then his phone rang. The first call was from a local newspaper asking for an interview. He sent the reporter a couple of photos of her in a skimpy bikini. Then he told him the story of her betrayal. He then agreed to be interviewed on a local radio station. Ryan spent the next 2 hours talking to reporters and answering emails. Most of them, including Caroline's friends and family, were very supportive. When he got tired of telling the story, he took a break and started stuffing all of Caroline's things into black trash bags. He ended up filling 4 bags. He dragged them to the garage near the trash cans. Ryan lived in a residential suburb where there had been no murder for 5 years. So the next morning, the local newspaper printed the headline, "Love Triangle Ends in Death." Television channels also attacked civilians. They each anchored the evening news with photos of the suspect on the run, as well as Ryan's bikini-clad ex-fiancée and the victim. It was pitch dark outside when Ryan decided to finish his bottle of bourbon. The next morning, television crews arrived in time to film the locksmith changing the locks. In conclusion, he hung up a sign, "No entry to trespasses." 2 hours later, police found Loretta Jenkins sleeping in her car a couple of blocks from Caroline's apartment. She was arrested without incident. Ryan was hung over when someone started knocking on his front door. "Get out," he shouted. "This is the police," came the answer. He opened the door. "Mr. Erickson, your fiancé wants to return home to explain what happened." "I don't have a fiancé, and this is not her home. This is my home. This will never be her home. Please take her things because I might do something I regret later." He walked outside and pointed to the trash bags. "That's all she had. I would appreciate it if you told her that I will never forgive her and I will never speak to her again. Never." He heard her scream from the patrol car, "Ryan, I love you!" He slammed the door and turned on the TV. He turned on the movie channel and sat back to watch a black and white Western. No one ever admitted that they sent the photographs through which Jenkins' wife learned about the affair. But everyone agreed that Scotty's secretary had a very smug look on her face when she showed up on Monday morning. Caroline became a pariah in the city. Of course, she was fired before she even entered her office. When the owner died and his wife's very expensive lawyers could not prove temporary insanity, the business was sold to a Chinese investor who quickly fired everyone and moved operations to a small island nation. Caroline's family and friends were united in their condemnation of the adulteress. The day after she testified in court, she packed all her belongings into her car and drove off to start a new life. On her way out of town, she passed Ryan's house one last time. There was a sold sticker on the sign in the yard. She tried to drive on but couldn't see anything through her tears. She stopped the car, closed her eyes, and tried to remember how she felt when he held her. She wanted to die. 6 years pass, and Ryan returns to his hometown for the funeral of a childhood friend who died a hero in Iraq. The Alumni Association invited the entire class, and a large turnout was expected. This was the first time he had returned since that night. His beautiful wife Brooklyn, or Brooke for short, squeezed his hand as he led her through the town square. She knew that every step carried very bad memories, and she tightened her grip. Ryan Jr., being an ordinary 3-year-old boy, did not want to wait for his slow parents and went to investigate. When his mom and dad stopped to look in the window of an antique store, Ryan Jr. ran without looking and collided with a woman leaving the store. She took a couple steps back and dropped her bag on the sidewalk. Several items dropped, including a condolence card. "Ryan Robert Erickson, stop running now!" A chill ran down the woman's spine when she heard his name. The mother turned to the woman and said, "We spent 6 hours in the car, and he has too much pent-up energy to walk." Ryan Jr. walked up to the woman and said, without any prompting, "I'm sorry I bumped into you, lady, and made you cry." "Are you okay?" Brooke asked. "I'm fine. Your son is a very well-mannered gentleman. You should be proud of him." When Ryan Sr. knelt down to pick up the bag, he recognized the woman. Their eyes met, and they continued to stare at each other as his son helped him pick up the fallen ink pen. He silently handed the bag to the woman, and then Brooke noticed that her husband had tears in his eyes. She immediately realized who this woman was, and, like a lioness protecting her cubs, she stood between the bad memory and her husband. "Never come near my family." She glared at the woman, daring her to speak. As Caroline slipped away, she heard Brooke add, "Never is forever, slut."